I've seen a couple of articles. Man, the situation in Ukraine is getting just outright desperate. A couple of fun facts. Average Ukrainian soldier is already 40 or older. They have a pre-war population of 41 million. It's now down to between 28 and 30 million. 6.5 million Ukrainians have fled the country. There are millions under Russian occupation rule, so they're not accessible. Zelensky signed a law now allowing Ukrainians over the age of 60 to join the military in non-combat roles to free up, I guess, those non-combat younger people to go to the front lines. They can't get anybody to sign up anymore. They're looking for signing bonuses. Only 12% of the new recruits had joined voluntarily last year. The rest were conscripted. They're doing protests in the street because viral videos are going around with these Ukrainian recruit guys just grabbing people off the streets and sending them off to military service. This situation sounds desperate, Daniel. I mean, am I missing something on this, or have I got this right?
The only thing you're missing is that there was an additional report that I saw yesterday where one of the members of the Ukrainian parliament was complaining, saying, listen, we are suffering so many casualties, and we are losing over 1,000 people per day killed and wounded. And this is the big bombshell, she said, and over 500 per day are abandoning the fight, going AWOL, just leaving, just deserting their units. She goes, we cannot sustain this. She goes, we may literally be running out of people before the end of the year and have no army. I mean, she was really sounding the alarm. But then, of course, you'd never know that from listening to Zelensky, because he keeps just talking like there's no problem here, and we're just going to keep fighting, and we're going to reject every opportunity for a diplomatic outcome. So, yeah, there's a problem.
Well, and he's pleading the European Union to give money to them so they can afford to pay the soldiers more, I guess, as a dangling carrot or something. But that made me pivot over the economic impact that this war has had on the country itself. Is anybody doing work? Is anybody, performing labor that results in taxpayer dollars going into support the Ukrainian government for whatever it needs to do? I mean, with that many people gone and the country being war torn, I don't know how people are even living their lives at this point, Daniel Davis.
Right. A lot of that money doesn't just go for soldiers that they're requesting. It goes to just to pay civil servants to keep the government functioning, because exactly what you said, they don't have the tax receipts to just fund the normal operations of their government. So you're talking millions upon millions of dollars every day just to keep the government running. So they can't do that unless they have a nonstop trough feeding in from Western Europe. Yet Western Europe is also struggling economically. So I just don't see how any of this is sustainable. Yet you have, it's not just Zelensky, it's the Western leadership that just stays just myopically focused on putting some kind of a strategic defeat on Russia without the means to do so. And that's the irrational part that's just causing the Ukraine country to just continue to be ground to dust.
Which I suppose feeds into Russia's position on this matter. I mean, they don't have to move a whit from their position. We sound like a broken record at this juncture, Daniel Davis, talking about this. Russia's position keeps getting stronger the more the days roll on. That just means every day there's 1,000 less Ukrainian soldiers on the front line, or maybe 1,500. I don't know. But if this is a battle of attrition, Russia clearly has the ball in its court. Why would they even bother to negotiate? I mean, what's with this deadline? There's a ceasefire deadline on Friday. I mean, I don't even know what that means.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, what it means is even more puzzling, because President Trump, I think it was yesterday or maybe the day before, clarified, yes, this deadline is firm. It is this Friday, the 8th of August, and probably there'll be some sanctions put in. But then, interestingly, he adds, but it probably won't do any good. It probably won't make them change their mind. And then one has to wonder, look, it's not just sanctions on Russia. It's secondary sanctions on China, India, Brazil, and anyone who does business with Russia in the petrocarbons area, oil and gas. And look, we're already having huge trouble getting a normal deal signed with all three of those, actually, and especially India. That's the biggest one, because China's already kind of antagonistic, but India's kind of is pliable to be our friend or our adversary.
Exactly.
And this is not going to help us. So I just don't understand where we're going with this.
Well, suggests Trump's kind of backed into a corner along those lines. He doesn't want to alienate India, and he is trying to get a better relationship with China insofar as trade deals are concerned. So this would throw a giant monkey wrench into the whole process. I think the bluff has been called here, it appears.
Well, it does appear that, and unfortunately, you say he's backed into a corner, but he was the one that made the corner because he's the one who added or created this deadline. So I don't really understand why he did that. Maybe he thought just the threat of it would cause Russia to do something. I don't know why he initially did it, but now he is himself acknowledging that it's unlikely, and I would say impossible, not even unlikely. There's no chance, zero chance that Russia would submit to what Trump wants, which would only benefit the Ukraine side. They'll never do that, and so the front line's going to continue to be chewing up Ukraine troops, and Russia will not stop.
They clearly will not. Well, let us assume for the sake of discussion, you had a more rational, thoughtful, contemplative leader in Ukraine, someone who is willing to acknowledge how badly the situation is for them, someone who might be willing to acknowledge some concessions to the Russians in terms of some of the Russian dominated areas that they have already taken over, conceding a partial victory to Russia. That is a possibility to resolve the broader conflict before Ukraine gets completely rolled over, isn't it?
See, that's one of the things that the Russian side themselves say that they are really frustrated about. That deal that you said has been on the table, offered from the Russian side since June of last year,
Yeah.
not this past June. They've been saying it over and over, and they have never deviated from that. And they're still saying the same things. It's a draconian issue. There's no question about it. It's an ugly deal for Ukraine, without question. But it's much better, or maybe a better way to say it is it's much less worse than the current situation where you're dying by the bucket loads every day. Just imagine how many people in Ukraine have been killed since June of last summer, and how many could have been saved if they had had the same deal, and instead of the worst one that they're going to end up with if Russia just physically mows all the way to Kiev. That's what the woman said, the parliamentarian. If nothing changes, Russia could be at the gates of Kiev by the end of this year.
Wow. Well, any chance for an administration change there, a coup or something? I know martial law has been declared, which is the only reason Zelensky's still currently president. I mean, if you got people protesting in the streets over, snatching young men off the streets and throwing them into the army against their will, if you have people fleeing the country in order to avoid that, it sounds to me like the population of Ukraine might choose a different direction in terms of leadership.
So far, there is an increasing number that's doing that, but so far the numbers of support for Zelensky are still quite high, especially in the western parts where they don't see the aspects of war. A lot of the people in the eastern part where all the fighting and dying and destroying is happening, which are large percentage of ethnic Russians. Actually, there are a lot worse Zelensky than the other people in the other part of the country. So, in terms of the people uprising, there's doesn't appear to be any imminent danger. But there are rumors that some of the other folks in Ukraine, some of the Azov kind of the folks, other even possibly European people are tired of dealing with him. And there's some suggestion that he considers stepping down, et cetera. But so far, those are all just reports, and someone anonymous is reporting. So we don't know how valid those are. But Zelensky can't help but be pretty nervous these days.
I imagine so. I'm sorry we're out of time. I can't get to Gaza and Israel. Something suggests to me that topic will still be alive and well for our conversation next Tuesday. Daniel Davis, Deep Dive. Find him online, follow his podcast, and tune in every Tuesday at 8:30 here at the 55KRC Morning Show. Stay well, my friend.